As long as there is life, there is a potential. And as long as there is a potential, there will be a success. Today, if anything is trying to hold you back, give no attention to it. Get your hopes up, get your faith up, look up and get ready to rise up. My dear students, you can rise above any situation and can achieve your dreams. You have that potential. Today, I am going to start the chapter Motion in One Dimension. Let me start with the introductory part and terms related to motion. Motion is a characteristic of every living being. The movement in plants and animals seems to be spontaneous. All living beings, plants or animals, move in one way or the other. Animals and humans can move a part or whole of their bodies. Certain non-living things can be moved by applying force on them. For example, a stone can be made to move by pushing it. Certain non-living things can be made to move with the help of energy produced by burning fuels. For example, you can say cars, scooters, buses, locomotives, etc. They can move by burning petrol or diesel. Now we will start one-dimensional motion. When a body moves along a straight line path, its motion is said to be one-dimensional motion. It is also called motion in straight line or rectilinear motion. For example, we can say a train on a straight track, a stone falling down under gravity vertically, a car moving on a long and straight road are one-dimensional motion. But if a body moves on a plane, for plane we have to consider coordinates. If this is a coordinate system, this is x, this one is y and this one is z. If the body moves only along x-axis, only in this direction, its motion is called rectilinear motion or one-dimensional motion. But if a body moves on a plane along a curved path, its motion is two-dimensional. Means this is xy plane, this plane is called xy plane. If a body moves along xy plane or along a curved path, its motion is two-dimensional. Or if it moves in space, its motion is three-dimensional. But in this chapter, we shall consider only the one-dimensional motion. Now, I shall come to the representation of one-dimensional motion. The path of one-dimensional motion can be represented by a straight line parallel to x-axis if x-axis is taken in the direction of motion. Let it be the x-axis. So, if the body moves along the x-axis or parallel to x-axis, then we can say the body is in one-dimensional motion. If the body moves along this direction or along the x-axis only, its motion is considered as one-dimensional motion. Each point on the straight line represents the position of particle at different instants. Let at any instant the particle is here at the position P. Next time the particle moves to the position P dashed. Next time particle moves to the position P double dashed. So the particle changes its position in different time. So the position of particle at any instant t is expressed by specifying x coordinates at that instant. Now I am coming to the next part, that is terms related to one-dimensional motion. Let me start with scalar quantities. To describe certain physical quantities, only magnitude is required. Apart from the mass of a body, distance to any place, time, temperature, height, number of oscillation of pendulum, and the number of books in a bag are some examples of such numbers. They have no direction associated with them. Only the required things are the physical quantity and their unit. So, the quantities which require only magnitude for their complete specifications and having no direction associated with the term are called scalar quantity. So, only required things are magnitude and units. So these two things are required for scalar quantities. Is it clear? Now come to the vector quantities. So here I will discuss few terms which is related to vector quantities. So let me start vector quantities. To describe certain physical quantities like displacement, along with the magnitude, the direction is also essential. Consider a body moving from x to y. Let it be x, this point be x, and this point be y, and the particle is moving from x to y. So xy is the displacement. On the contrary, if the body moves from y to x, the displacement is yx. The direction will be along yx. So if the body is moving from x to y, the displacement will be from x to y. But if the body comes back, then its displacement, the direction of the displacement also changes. So what is the vector quantity? Quantities which require both magnitude and direction for their complete specification, and they follow vector addition rule are called vectors. For example, we can say momentum, force, torque, magnetic field, etc. There is a very important question. I have written here that electric current is having both magnitude and direction. Still, it is not a vector quantity. Why? We know that vector quantities are having two important characteristics. That is, they should have both the direction and magnitude. But electric current is having those properties. Why are not they vectors? Because electric current in a wire has both magnitude and direction, but it does not obey the vector triangle rule for their addition. That's why the electric current is not a vector quantity. Now, there are certain quantities which are associated with two or more directions. Such quantities are called tensor. Note it down. There are certain quantities which are associated with two or more directions. Such quantities are called tensor. As for example, stress at a point on an elastic solid depends on two directions. What are the directions? Normal to area and force on it. So that's why stress at a point of an elastic solid is a tensor. Clear? It is not inside your syllabus, it is just for your knowledge. Now, representation of a vector. How can you represent a vector? A vector can be conveniently represented by straight line with an arrow at its head. Let x be a vector or a be a vector So easily it can be expressed by giving an arrow on its head like this, x or a. Then we have not to write that this is a vector quantity. If you give x and on the head there is an arrow, so it already tells us that it is a vector quantity. The length of the vector represents its magnitude and the arrow on the head indicates its direction. The concept of vector is very important in physics. That's why I will discuss a little bit more than in your syllabus, because it will help you for your higher studies. If I come for the number one, position vector. If I come for the position vector, position means we have to locate the position of a particular point. This is a point represented by P. Now we have to locate the point with the help of vector. How can I locate? I can draw two axes here, x and y, and this is origin O. If I go from here up to x, this distance is x. Along x we have done to x distance, and along y we will go for y distance. So this is x, this long position is x, and that is y, small y. So then only we can locate P. So we can say that the coordinate of P will be x comma y, and if we join it from the origin, join this point from the origin, so we will get a line and we will give one arrow mark here. So this is the distance that we can get directly by using one vector, that is called position vector, represented by small r. So to locate the position of any point P in a plane or space, generally a fixed point of reference called the origin, means we will locate P from the origin if we want, then the vector OP is called the position vector of P with respect to O, as I have shown in the figure. Got my point? Now this is position vector. Vector, I told you already that vector learning will remain incomplete if we don't have the idea about few things. That's why I will discuss a little bit more about that. I am starting with unit vector. A vector having unit magnitude is called unit vector. Let me take a vector A. A is a vector here. Then the magnitude of this vector can be represented as magnitude of A. Then the vector by the magnitude is called unit vector. So unit vector is vector A divided by the magnitude of it, and this is represented by A cap. So A cap is the unit vector, and which gives vector A by the magnitude of A. So from here vector A equals to A cap into magnitude of A. The unit vectors along x, y, z axis are denoted as I cap, j cap and k cap. Along x axis it is represented by I cap, along y axis it is represented by j cap, along z axis it is represented by k cap. So these are the unit vectors along x direction, y direction and z direction. Now I will come to zero or null vector. A vector having zero magnitude is called a null vector or a zero vector, and it is represented by vector 0, zero vector, and it has few important properties. What are the properties? Zero vector has no specific direction. Number 2, the position vector of origin is a zero vector. Number 3, zero vectors are only for mathematical importance. It has no physical importance. Clear? Now I will come to equal vectors. So what are equal vectors? Equal vectors. Vectors are said to be equal if both vectors are having same magnitude as well as direction. Let us take two vectors, vector A and vector B. This is vector A and this is vector B. See, both the vectors are having direction along that side, both the vectors, and also their magnitudes are same. That's why they can be written as equal vectors. So vector A is equal to vector B. Okay. What is a parallel vector? Vectors are said to be parallel if they have the same direction. This is a vector A and that is a vector B. So you can see here the magnitudes are not same, but their directions are same. So if they are of same direction, they are called parallel vectors. Here important note is there. What is the note? Two equal vectors are always parallel, but two parallel vectors may be equal or may not be equal vectors. Very important, keep it in mind. If you want, you can note it down. Now come to anti-parallel vectors. What are anti-parallel vectors? Vectors are said to be anti-parallel if they act in opposite direction. Let me take a vector A and another vector B. So clearly you can see that vector A is acting in that direction and vector B is acting along opposite direction, opposite of vector A. Okay, so they are called anti-parallel vectors or unlike vectors. Now come to concurrent vectors. So this word concurrent is actually co-initial vectors, means the vectors are having the same initial point are called concurrent vectors or co-initial vectors. So the vector, suppose this is a vector, that is a vector, this one is also a vector. So if I give them vector sign and denote them as vector A, vector B and vector C, you can see that all the vectors are having a same point. Let it take as O. So vector A, B, C, both three of the vectors originated from point O. That's why they are concurrent vectors or co-initial vectors. Now come to the coplanar vectors. What are coplanar? The vectors in the same plane are called coplanar. Plane may be xy, maybe xz, maybe yz. In one plane they all will lie. They are called coplanar vectors. Like this vector A and the vector B, both the vectors, vector A and B, are lying on the same plane. That's why they are coplanar vectors. But if the vectors are lying on the same plane, suppose this is also A, this is also B, but originated from a particular point O, they are called concurrent coplanar vectors because they both means the vectors are following both the rule of concurrent and coplanar. That's why they are called concurrent coplanar vectors. I hope you understand this one. Now I will start the very easy part that you have already learned in class 7, in class 8 also. What is that part? Terms related to one-dimensional motion. But actually the terms are so easy. Why? You are very much familiar with distance and displacement. What is distance? The actual length of the path travelled by a moving body, irrespective of the direction, is called the distance travelled by the body. It is a point O, that is the initial point OI, from where the body has started. First the body moves from O to A, then it goes to point B, then it goes to point C. As it is, let's take it is as 3 meter, it is 2 meter, it is 5 meter. So the distance travelled by this body is actually 3 meter plus 2 meter plus 5 meter. So is equal to 10 meter. This is the distance travelled by the body. And what is the unit of distance? You all know that. The CGS unit is the CGS unit of distance is the unit of length, that is centimeter, and SI unit is meter. Now what is displacement? Actually the change in position of a moving body in a particular direction is called displacement. It means the shortest distance, straight distance between the initial and the final positions of a moving body is called its displacement. It is O initial, so it is C final. So from initial to final, if we want to calculate the distance, so we will calculate OA plus AB plus BC. But if we want to calculate displacement, we will directly add this one. I told you about shortest distance along a straight line. Okay, so OI CF, this distance will be called as displacement. Okay, because it is the shortest distance and it is straight, that's why it is called displacement. So displacement here, the distance between OI to CF, let it be 8 centimeter, 8 meter. So the displacement will be 8 meter. This is called displacement. Clear? Now I am giving you one work. You try to differentiate between distance and displacement. At least 4 differences you should write. So I am giving you time 20 minutes to solve your assignment paper. After 20 minutes, I will discuss the assignment 3. Okay, so now you start. Now only you start. I am coming after 20 minutes. Clear? Okay.
So students, I gave you 20 minutes and I hope that you have solved the worksheet number 3. Now I am going to discuss the solution of the questions given in the worksheet 3. Follow it. The question number 1, it is given that it takes time 8 minutes for light to reach from the sun to earth's surface. If speed of light is taken to be 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, find the distance from the sun to earth in the unit kilometer. So the time is given here 8 minutes. Now see what is the solution here. So given time 8 minutes, speed of light given 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, and we have to find out the distance. Here you see time is given in minutes, but you have to convert into seconds because second is the standard form of time. So 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. Therefore 8 minutes means 480 seconds. What will be the distance? Distance equals to speed into time. Speed is given 3 into 10 to the power 8 into time is 480 second, which gives us 1.44 multiplied by 10 to the power 8 kilometer. Now come to the second question. It is given the average mass of an atom of uranium is 3.9 into 10 to the power minus 25 kg. Find the number of atoms in 1 kg of uranium. You have to find out the number. Let's see the solution. Given mass of one atom of uranium in kg, that is 3.9 10 to the power minus 25 kg, is equal to, we have to convert it into gram. That's why it is 3.9 10 to the power minus 22 gram. So what will be the number of atoms in 1 gram of uranium? That is, in that much gram means 3.9 10 to the power minus 22 gram, 1 atom of uranium is present. Means that is the mass of 1 atom of uranium. So what is the number of atoms in 1 gram of uranium? Obviously that is 1 by 3.9 10 to the power minus 22, and there will be no unit as it is the number of atoms, which gives us 2.6 10 to the power minus 21 number of atoms. Okay, I hope you all can understand this one. I am going to the third question. It is given what is a lunar month, the first question, and the attached question is, if one physical quantity is defined in terms of work by time, then name the physical quantity. Derive the unit of this physical quantity in terms of fundamental units. I discussed already about fundamental units. The units which can be written without the help of any other units, which can be expressed themselves, expressed by themselves only, that is called fundamental units. So here you can see what is lunar month. Let's see the answer. Lunar month is the amount of time it takes for the moon to pass through each of its phases. What are the 3 phases here? New moon, half moon and full moon, and then return back to its original position. And how much time it takes? 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes and 3 seconds to complete one lunar month. Okay, this is the definition of lunar month. Now my second question was, if one physical quantity is defined in terms of work by time, then what is the name of that physical quantity? See, work by time means work done per unit second. I told you, what is that? That is power. Power equals to work done by time. And we have to derive the unit of power in terms of fundamental unit. Okay, see, in terms of derived unit we can write work done is joule, time is second, so the unit is joule per second. But you have to convert it into fundamental units. So what will be that? That will be kg meter square second to the power minus 3. That is expressed in fundamental units. Try to find out the fundamental units from this derived unit. You do that. Try to do that. Now come to the question number 4. What is meant by zero error of a vernier calipers? So I think you all can write the answer, because given study material I have already provided it. But let's see the answer. Sometimes due to mechanical errors, what happens on bringing the movable jaw in contact with fixed jaw? In vernier calipers or slide calipers, two jaws are there. One is movable, another is fixed. If movable jaw is brought near fixed jaw, the zero mark of the vernier scale will not match, will not coincide with the zero mark of main scale. That is called zero error. And in this condition, the vernier calipers is said to have a zero error. Okay. Come to the next question. Next question is, name the part of vernier calipers which is used to measure the following. 4 conditions are given. So external diameter of a tube, which part will you use? Next one, internal diameter of a mug, which part of vernier calipers will you use? To measure the depth of a small bottle, to measure the thickness of a pencil. So let's see what are the answers. See, first of all you have to measure the external diameter of a tube. We will use outside jaws. To measure the internal diameter of a mug, we will use inside jaws. To measure the depth of a small bottle, whenever you want to measure the depth, you have to use strip. And we have to measure the thickness of a pencil. What we should use? Any kind of external diameter, if you want to measure, you have to use outside jaws. So to measure the thickness of pencil, we have to use outside jaws. But what is outside jaw? What is inside jaw? What is strip? I have already given in the study material, but here you please check, you please see. It is a vernier calipers or slide calipers. The top one is the inside jaws to measure the inside depth, and the bottom one is the outside jaws to measure the external diameter. Okay, and at the end you can see one strip, brown color strip, and here I have shown you the main scale as well as the vernier scale. Now come to the next question. How can the least count of a screw gauge be decreased? So how can the least count of a screw gauge be decreased? So I think 2 ways are there. What are the ways? Number 1, increasing the total number of divisions on the circular scale. See, least count means pitch of screw by total number of division on the circular scale. So if we increase total number of divisions, that is an increase in denominator, the least count will be decreased. Okay, so by increasing the total number of division, and the second one is reducing the pitch. If we reduce pitch, least count will obviously be decreased. Okay, so come to the next question. State the purpose of ratchet in a screw gauge. So I will show you the screw gauge, and at the same time I will discuss the answer. This also is given in the study material. See, here you can see the ratchet part at the end. You see at the end the black color, it is mentioned as ratchet. So what is the purpose? What is the purpose of this ratchet? To advance the screw by turning it till the object is gently held between the stud and spindle of the screw, where the object is in between stud and spindle, and we have to rotate the ratchet to touch the wire, to touch the spindle to the wire. I think it is clear to you. Come to the next part. What is backlash error? Many of you are having problem about this backlash error, because in my note, in my study material, it is not provided what is backlash error. That's why I am discussing this. A backlash error is an error in the observation caused due to wear and tear of threads of the screw observed while reversing the direction of rotation of the thimble, where the tip of the screw does not start moving in opposite direction at once, but remains stationary for a part of rotation. It means if we use the screw gauge without knowing the actual handling, and backlash error will happen. Okay. Now the next question, how it is avoided? So it can be avoided. So whether we will take the measurement, the screw should be rotated in only one direction. If you rotate it clockwise once and then again once anti-clockwise, it will not give you the final answer. This is called backlash error. I think all the things are clear to you all. Now you please try the assignment 2 at home, okay, and if any problem you can share with me. So today up to this, next day I am going to discuss about the rest part. What will be given, I will discuss that one. So stay safe at home, be at home, and take care of your parents. Have a great day. Thank you.